Good morning. This is Dr. Martinez for Retract-a-Band. We are going to do a very special program this morning. I grew up and played a lot of tennis and ended up winning some state championships in New Mexico, where I grew up, and then went on to a very strong tennis program at Swarthmore College, along with its amazing academic program, and was on a national championship team there as well. So we're going to do some ground strokes for tennis players. So tennis player ground strokes, and we're going to have fun with that. We're going to do all arms. So let's warm up our arms. As you know me, I like an arm warm up or any kind of warm up before we exercise. Thank you for joining me this morning. It is morning here in New York City. You can use this video, of course, anytime you want. We're going to do mostly arms, so let's do some arm warm-up. A big part of your ground strokes, of course, for tennis players are the core. So we will do some core work as well. You notice I get some legs in because that's just who I am, but mostly sort of arm warm-up. If you want to keep your arms still, that's fine. Your legs still, that's fine. So, and I do some of these, and you can even do ground stroke warm-ups if you want. I'm a righty, so there's my forehand, right? Good, and here's the backhand. I grew up playing two-handed backhand, and after college, right, after a lot of that competition, I switched to a one-handed backhand. I think I was teaching a lot of tennis, so it was easier in teaching tennis to reach, right, with just one hand, and it just became easier for me to use that. I developed a nice underspin, right? I developed the topspin, never got as good as my two-hander, right? But I did develop that, so here's my forehand, right? Then I had a two-handed backhand, which I still can hit today, and a one-handed backhand, so sometimes I use that for reach or just, during regular play. So get your arms above your head here. Good. Starting to feel the warmth. As you can see, my retractor-band is up here in front. So it's on full stretch. There are 3 feet on each handle of that retractor-band. Right? That's a lot. So I think maybe not all of the 3 feet come out, but it comes out to about 5.5 feet full length. Some more of these. I can do some of these. Good. And I'm going to leave the stretching up to you at the end of the program. I told you before, you could do stretching before you do your exercises. I like to break them up into 2 different categories, right? Stretching has different parameters than exercise. So yes, exercise is the whole sort of overhead umbrella, but stretches you usually do for a perfect 20 to 30 seconds in order for the tissue to change length. So it would be something like this, and stretching out the triceps and the shoulder from the inside. You hold for 30 seconds. I like to tell people 30 seconds because we all count a little fast. So you want to hold, and you end up getting that perfect 20 seconds. The tissue then changes length. That's what's called the plastic range. So it changes length, and then you get more flexibility. Good, and we'll switch. Sometimes I like this. I get a little bit of leverage if I pull from the top up here. So, but I'm gonna have you do most of the stretches afterwards. You can do them on your own, and we could have a whole session on stretches that does not involve the retractor-band. But I thought I would show you the concept stretches. And the exercises are usually done in repetitions or isometrics, which are different parameters. So I like to keep them separate. Keep the stretches in one column and the exercises in another column, because I don't want people to start holding these stretches or thinking that they should do sets of 10 stretches. That would be fine, but that's more on the ballet gymnastics area. And that would be great for you if you do those things. Okay, so that's probably over 20, 30 seconds. Good. Okay, my arms are kind of warm. I'm going to grab my Retract-a-Band. Here we go. Look how long that is. Isn't that great? Right, so then I pop open the locking mechanisms. Notice that I come over with my opposite hand. I pull that, and it says there where to pull it open. It says to pull on. A lot of people are trying to pull it from the middle, but it's really the corner. And I hold that out. See, it just slides back in. Snap it shut. It also has instructions there on how to squeeze it and hold it. And same thing over here. I come with my fingers, my forefinger and my thumb, and I catch the little corner end of the locking mechanisms. I have it in white today, red, white, and blue. All right, pop that open, line it up. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so I like that size, right? And the first thing we're gonna do today is we're gonna do some wrists. So I'm gonna start with the forehand. Remember, I'm a righty. You can do it on the left-hand side. And one of the things that happens is as you come and make contact with the ball, oftentimes you're trying to get topspin, right? So you're gonna drop that wrist a little bit, be under the ball, and then you're gonna do a quick flick, right? Flick. Now that movement is called radial deviation, right? It's a radial deviation. So if you put it underhanded, right, it's this direction, right? This up, or in this case, changing. So if I sit down here and I grab these, now the Retract-a-Band handles feel like a tennis grip. They really do feel that same, they're a little longer, maybe about the same size, or seem a little longer than a tennis grip. So remember, you hold your fingers on the white locking mechanisms in this case, right? And it feels like a tennis grip. Underhanded, right? A nice tight, let's see if I have it at its tightest. Yep, snap that down, get that. Oh, that one went in a little tighter, so that's good. So tight, and you're gonna go underhand with this. You're gonna pull the band so it's taut, right? There's a little tautness to it. And then you angle, right? It's not a roll, and it's not sort of a curl. It's a radial deviation. So the wrist goes up, and that's where you get that topspin at the very end. Sometimes if you do a lot of topspin, you do have to use that quite quickly and with force. So there are people who have wrist injuries in tennis, and they can be very serious. If we strengthen you up, right, you won't have those wrist injuries. Right, so radial deviation, and you're going to be hitting a lot of forehands, right, a lot of backhands. So you want to do a lot of these, right? Good. The muscles are in your forearm and in your hand, right? If you want to do it sort of exactly the way you're doing stroke, you could do this. I just like getting them both at the same time. Guess you could do back downwards, yep. Feels just like a tennis grip. I like this. Perfect for tennis players, really. Really, Retract-a-Band works great with tennis players. Maybe that's influenced me a little bit being a tennis player myself. Okay, so now you also get pronation, just a little bit of pronation, right? So as you come around with that forehand, right, you'll see here, there's a really flick, and then there's a bit of a turnover, not too much, because if you turn it over too much, that ball's going to hit the net, go down into the ground. So as you come around, you're flicking up, and there's a bit of a, right, you're here, and then boom, you come over like this. So the pronation, right, what you're going to do is you're going to grab that Retract-a-Band in those hands. You're going to put your left hand, in my case I'm right-handed, if you're left-handed, and your right hand down. The opposite hand down like this, and you're going to hold this little underhand. Now be careful with your fingers if you have fingernails, right? You kind of tuck them in a little bit, and then what happens is you roll over, right? And the resistance, right, is down there. So you keep that opposite hand down, and you roll, right? There's a little bit of radial deviation, but there's a roll. There's good resistance there. Roll. Roll. You can feel that. And you're going to feel that the pronator teres is the name of the muscle, is in the forearm, right? And I can feel that pronator teres working. Good. Obviously, if you're lefty, you do this side. I'm not as coordinated on that side, but you lefties will be. Right. Nice pronation. And you're going to do a lot of these, so stop the video, and do a couple sets. You're going to feel it, right? That resistance. Remember, the harder you pull the band, Retract-a-Band, right, the more resistance it gives you. So as you pull this down and you roll over into from a supination to a pronation, right, you're going to feel that because the more you pull, the harder it gets, right? So that in your tennis swing, when you feel it, you're going to get that power as you get through. So you're going to love that. All right, obviously you've got a little elbow flexion. So if I bring that arm around, right, I get that radial deviation, I get that pronation, and then as you fall through, you're going to get the little bend of the elbow, right? So it's going to happen very quickly, and then boom, right, and you get through. So you need a little bit of elbow flexion, we call it. You may as well do both sides. I think that's easier. Of course you could do one side. So I'm going to pop this out and make it longer, right? See how I snap that shut, come over with my pincers, pop that open, make it a little longer, snap it shut. I'm going to put it under both feet, right? And you got that good handle, that nice tennis grip feel, and then bicep curls, elbow flexion, right? You could come across. Yeah, that's really good resistance. And of course, the more that I pull up, the harder it gets with these bands. Right? This Retract-a-Band handle just makes it feel like you're holding a tennis racket. Some people are trying to strap, elastic bands around, the little opening near the head of the tennis racket. That's fine. The Retract-a-Band just makes it easier. It's basically a tennis grip with elastic band attached to it. It feels good. We're not going to get into the serve today. We'll do that on another video, but ground strokes today. Very good. The reason I thought of that is because you use your triceps for serve, but we're not going to do triceps today. It feels good. Obviously, you can do one leg, both arms, or put that down, one leg, one arm, and get into that tennis swing, right? Boom, there it is. This time I'm hitting that way. Boom, right? And I get that elbow bend there. That's your flexion. Okay, good. Getting the workout so far. Remember, forehand, we're still on forehand. So I'm going to take out that Retract-a-Band. We're going to do horizontal adduction, so I'm going to keep it nice and long. Again, as you do your forehand, right, you notice that your arm is out here away from your body. So then as you come in, you're getting that radial deviation, you're getting your pronation, you're getting your slight elbow bend at the end, but you're also pulling your arm from your elbow up closer to your trunk, right? That's called horizontal adduction, right? Your shoulder horizontal adduction. So it's coming in here and then it's pulling across. You get a little bit of your pectoralis major muscle, right? So one of the ways you can do that, keep the Retract-a-Band nice and long, put it all the way around your back, right? So it's back there. Good. And then you really tighten it up, right? You can even sort of loosen here and bend your elbow here, and then you pull that arm out, and then you pull it in, right? You can even feel your chest muscle there really coming in tightly. Boom, there's your, right? And it's not, you will get to the lower part of the stroke in a second, but right now I want you to get that arm out to the side and pull it in. And I could use a little bit more resistance. So pop it open, slide it in. That's going to be hard. So here we go. And then I really feel that tightness or down here and pull it in. Pull it in so you get that whole arm in. You feeling that? Good. And you notice I'm getting my loop. Pull it in. Just natural for me. Oh, I can really feel it. Now, you tennis players know this. Those of you who have played a lot of tennis, you'll notice that you get much more developed muscles on the dominant arm, right? So your arm will be stronger, a little bit bigger than your other side. Your chest will be a little bit bigger than the other side. That's normal, right? Of Of course, if you don't want that look, you'll do all the exercises on the opposite side as if you were, right, a player with the opposite hand. Good, so that's a horizontal adduction for your forearm. Now, keep the band here. What happens is we all know the rotator cuff is a really important piece of tennis, right? So at the very end, right, you're hitting that ball and you notice you're getting a little bit of this lever, we call it a little bit of lever, almost like a door hinge, right? So if you bring the arms like this, you have that band nice and tight around and it's above your elbows. I've got those tennis grips in my hand, never let them go. That's really important, right? And then what you do is you widen your arms out and then pop those elbows out and bring your hands in as if you're putting your hands on your hip and you're making a stance, right? So when you do that, you get an internal rotation of your shoulder. It's part of the rotator cuff. Good, and my band is nice and tight so I can feel it. Notice I'm doing it on both sides. That gives you that resistance for that forehand side. And some on, it's not really the backhand side, it would just be a lefty. Good, these are tough, right? If you make that band tight, these are a little tough. You feel it on, you know, the skin above your elbow, but just, you know, it's nothing. You're tennis players, you're tough, you can do it. Good. Okay, and again, stop the video. As I always say, do more if you need to. Oof, I'm getting tired. I can feel that in my right rotator cuff more than everything, more than my left, and it's getting tired. All right, here we go. You're gonna love this one. Okay. Let's pop this thing open. You saw how I did that? I line it, remember to line up the hole where the band comes out. That'll make it easier. Then you pull, every once in a while I have somebody grab it like this, and that's perfectly fine. Then you snap it shut and it's nice and long, okay? I'm gonna lengthen a little bit on the other side, line up the hole, right? If you try to do it this way, that's made for the band not to slip out so much. So you gotta line the hole up a little bit. And then I'm gonna reach over with my fingers, pull it out a little more, snap that shut. Okay. Put one of the handles on the floor, but don't step on the handle. That's important. Step close to the handle. Okay, so then I'm gonna turn a little bit and I'm gonna pull my leg that's stepping on the band a little further to the outside to get more resistance. Okay, so we are gonna do what is called a PNF D1 flexion. That's what happens in a forehand, right? It's a very functional movement. I know everybody wants to know what PNF means, and I will tell you, but we'll stick to PNF. PNF stands for proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, and the D1 stands for a diagonal one pattern. Okay, it's a flexion pattern, right? But don't worry, PNF is fine. Don't even worry about the D, right? So PNF, right? And what happens is it's a diagonal functional movement pattern, perfect for tennis players. Okay, here it goes. Got my tennis grip. It feels good. Hold on there. And I loop around. Notice I pull that hand out, that lead hand out on the opposite side. I come around, and as I come around and open up to get that rotation, I pull, and I'm pulling that band. I can feel it, right? So pull across, pull across. Now, if you want a little bit more of resistance, what you can do is when you pull across, put that hand slightly on the band and then hold it down. You get a lot more resistance that way. So pull, pull. Notice I've got my loop. I come around, I set myself up. I open up that hip and shoulders. I pull that band. Pull. Doesn't matter if the band sort of curls up. Pull. Boy, you can really feel that. Boom. If you undo it, that's sort of what we call functional speeds or player speeds. You're really moving now. And you can feel that's perfect for tennis players, right? You get that nice setup and you get that nice, right? Everything combination. You get your radial deviation, you get your pronation, you get your elbow flexion, right? And then you're pulling across, and the whole thing is a PNF D1 flexion pattern, right? Well, I'm a bit older than you tennis players, so, you know, maybe there's some older people out there, but, you know, we can feel that it's good. It feels really good, right? So that is forehand. The last piece for forehand, right, is I take my foot off, right? This is going to be a little bit long, right? So I'm gonna pop it open, line it up, let it slide in. That's probably the right size. You wanna be seated with something behind you. So today I have a little something on the couch that I sort of put in there, but a chair that has a back on this, because you need core, right? Your core and your obliques are the ones that are gonna rotate you. I like to do it in sitting because it keeps the pelvis fixed so it doesn't move. That gets a little bit more rotation. So we're gonna pretend our opponent is that direction. So if we sit, right, we're gonna pull this around. I'm gonna pull it around that little thing that I put there. You should be in a chair or something where you can get the band all the way behind the back of the chair. So I got that pull. Mine's like a little thin pull, right? And then what happens is you're gonna get hip and shoulder rotation, right? If our opponent's there and you're hitting a right hand forehand, you're gonna be pulling in that direction, right? You can see me pulling, right? So it would pop out around here, and then you could put the arm in like this, but you want to squeeze tight. It's being held by the chair back behind you, and pull, and you're getting that hip and shoulder rotation, right? Rotation at the shoulders. The hips are staying stiff, but you're getting a really strong muscle contraction in the abdominal obliques, one on each side, and you need that for a good tennis forehand. You're gonna whip around and get those obliques really turning, and this feels good. Boom, right? So then that whole arm's getting there. You've got everything to strengthen you. You're gonna make contact with that ball in front, and then boom, you're gonna go and you're gonna get that rotation at your trunk, and then you're gonna get a great power into that forehand. Immediately, without moving, the backhand, remember I'm a righty, is gonna do the same thing. You're gonna come around like this, and you're almost gonna get a twist. That shoulder's gonna come back of the shoulder, you're gonna come around, and then boom, you get the other side. So you wanna do the other side. I'm connected back here to my little pole that I put there, right? And you all are gonna have the back of your chair is really the best, way to do this. So boom, and I can really feel those obliques. And they can take a lot of this. You guys go for it, right? Now, obviously, if you do 100 of them, you're gonna get sore. Sometimes it feels like your stomach is a little upset or something, but that's just soreness in your abdominal. And but your abdominals can take a lot, right? So, do several sets of them. They're gonna be great for your power and your tennis. There's my backhand, there's the one-hander. This is the two-hander, right? And I can feel those. Right, and you've got this nice and taut around you, and again, attached to the back of the chair. Okay, so we got two exercises in there, one for the forehand, one for the backhand. Backhand, a lot of the same exercises we already did, several of those for the wrist, are very, very similar. So you've already done those, and now I'm gonna go through some of the ones for the shoulder, which are a little bit different for the backhand. All right, so let me stand for those and get that around the bowl that I got back there. Okay, here we go. So horizontal abduction with your backhand, right? So that means that you're bringing your arm away from your body, right? So it's a shoulder. Horizontal means it's up a little higher, bringing it from close to your body away from it. All right, so let's see how I want to do this. Oh, we're going to tighten this up a little bit. Good. I didn't line it up at first, and now I did. Okay, that's a little tight. I got to open up a little bit for me. All right. So then what happens is you're going to fit right. So your backhand is swinging around. My opponent is now this way. I could turn it towards you. My opponent's now where you are, right? A nice loop around when you come through. But you notice that my arm goes from tight to my body to away from my body. So that movement is that. You hold it sturdy with the opposite hand, and you pull this arm out. If I'm facing you and my opponent's that way, it would be out. You notice my whole arm is moving. I'll get to the external rotation next. So the whole arm is moving, the elbow is not bent, right? You can do them like this if you want to get both sides. Horizontal abduction. Right, in tennis, it's, right, you're pulling that arm away. right? So the backhand, boom, or the two-handed backhand, boom, and the arm separates from the body. Okay, good. All right, I told you I'd do the external rotation, another rotator cuff, opposite of what we did on the forehand side. So the backhand side, right, you come through and you get a little bit of this, right? So as you walk through and there's a little bit of, right, but you really want to extend that arm out to get some full power behind the ball, get a heavy ball, what we call the heavy ball. You know, I'm going to do a shout out to Mark, right? Mark Schmidt was a doubles partner of mine. We played at Swarthmore College, won some national championships. And Mark Schmidt was from Belgium. He's a professor of neurology or neurobiology there at University of Pennsylvania, I believe. He may have changed, right? But what a great tennis player. And the reason I bring his name up because he hit what I consider a very heavy ball. And when he stepped into that ball, he really extended through and he had a full drive into that ball by pulling his arm away from his body, and then he got some external rotation. And it just, when his ball hit and came towards you, it had full of power. It's very heavy. It wasn't a light ball. So shout out to Dr. Schmidt there. All right, so then you make this nice and tight, right? Snap it shut, and you elbows like this, right? You can have your palms facing you. Hold on to those tennis grips. Retract-a-Band is perfect for this, right? And then I'm gonna make sure you can see that logo. And then you keep your elbows tucked into your body and pull out, right? So you're pulling your hands and your forearms, your wrists away from each other, and the elbows stay tucked. You are going to feel that in the back of your shoulders where the external rotator muscles of the rotator cuff are. That would be the infraspinatus, for those of you who are interested, and the teres minor. There are two of them. Good. Right, so then if you want to get the full swing in, you loop that one-handed backhand around and pull. Loop that one-handed, pull. Very good. I can feel that. Feels good, but I like to do both. Keep me even on both sides. Good. Right, so then there it is. You pull it around one-handed, you step in. You got that separation, the horizontal abduction, and then you have your radial deviation, which you already did earlier, right? And then you're gonna external rotate, pull out. If you're a two-hander, you got that there. You drop that wrist. We're gonna do that next. You pull that arm out. Another teammate of mine was a great two-handed backhand player, David Sobel. Well, Vivek Varma, he was a wonderful teammate of mine. That guy had a beautiful two-handed backhand, right? Both played beautiful tennis, won national championships, way more than I did, right? And they both came around, and when they hit through that two-handed backhand, right, they really extended out, and they finished through, and that's what we're gonna do next, right? They got these beautiful, deep, powerful, heavy balls. Right, David Sobel used to let go. He used to do this, and then he'd let his arm go, which gave him a much longer follow through, right? So, and there he went through, went all the way through. I don't know what David Sobel is. I believe he's a Dr. David Sobel, and professor somewhere, or a physician. And Vivek Varma is, I think he's the CEO of the Schultz Family Foundation, which Schultz was the owner of Starbucks. I believe, I could have that wrong, but Vivek Varma, wonderful tennis player, right? And I was lucky enough to play with all these wonderful tennis players. I was the lesser of the group, but I was lucky to be able to meet with them and play with them every day and be on the same team. So, but beautiful tennis players. All right, so, sorry, got off to a little tangent there. Pull this out a little bit longer, right? We're gonna go back to this last exercise. Right, I'm gonna make this a tad bit longer, pull it out, snap that shut, put one handle on the ground, do not step on the handle, step on the band right next to it. Make sure it's back a little bit, right, so that your shoulder is turned, right? You have this nice Retract-a-Band handle in your hand that feels like a tennis grip. Don't let it go when it's taut in particular. And then you're gonna pull that out like this, so you're gonna get that nice, right? There's the one-handed, my opponent's over there. right? And it gets that full, right? That's called a PNFD2 flexion. And if you want, when you come around, you can put that opposite hand there. See how I put it down there? And boy, that makes this much harder, right? So one-handers, you loop around. You would have your hand, other hand on the frame of the racket, pulling it around, but sort of grab that down there. You can go back and forth. Boy, and that is hard. Oh boy, I'm gonna get a little sore. You guys are tougher, so you won't. Two-handed, go ahead and put two hands on the Retract-a-Band. You can grab it, don't let it go when it's taut. You can get it and come around, and you can feel that. You're not gonna get this little extra part here, but you can feel it. Lean into it. Notice I loop around. Right, some of you do smaller loops. And when I was in high school, before I got to Swarthmore, right, I went straight back. Part of the, in other words, my follow-through backswing was this, boom, boom, right? A lot of people do that on the return to serve because it's faster, right? So it's boom, boom, right? And the reason I believe that I did that when I was younger was because in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where I grew up, it's 7,000 feet above sea level, and the balls move faster, right? There's less humidity in the air, so the balls move faster. You have to use actually high altitude balls, special balls, right? So those balls move more quickly, and so I think that I probably adopted it because it was just faster. I could sort of boom, boom really fast, right? It probably wasn't as smooth as a stroke, but it worked for me. Won a couple of state championships with that. So look at that move, right? Two-hander. One-hander, don't let go of the handle. It's easy to do while you're getting a nice taut because that thing will fly. So boom, there's the two-hander. Little loop there, I step into it. I hold with my other hand to get a better workout. Or two-hander, one-hander. Oh, I'm getting tired. All right, so don't forget to do I'll do a quick review, right? To wrap this around your back and do the obliques, right? So if you sit down, put it around the back of the chair. I've got my little loop there, and then do these, right? Because you're gonna need that as you see with your rotation. Tennis players, this works great with tennis players because it feels like a tennis grip. Retract-a-Band is going to get you strong and powerful and make a big difference with your opponents. Remember, right, just stop here, get into these, do a couple of these, have your Retract-a-Bands ready and in your bag so you can get a good workout. And I can't wait to see you on the court. If you do use it, give me a shout out. You know, put me on your socials and say, hey, Retract-a-Band works great for tennis players. All right, Dr. Martinez out. Have fun. Perfect tennis ground strokes with Retract-a-Band. Bye.